It's 10 o'clock, so I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is a regular Commissioners Court meeting for County of Starr, Monday, June 25th. Well, I thought someone had called. I'd like to thank everyone for being here and certainly welcome. If everyone would please stand, well, before that, let the record show that we do have quorum, everyone being present. If everyone would please stand for Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is claims. Mr. Carter.
The claims have all been reviewed and they're all in order, Judge.
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
Moved and second to approve. Discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the vendors list. Mr. Carter.
Your Honor, the vendors' applications have all been reviewed and they're all in order.
I do so move, Your Honor.
You're second, Your Honor.
Moved and second. Discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 is an action item. This is to purchase a new or used backhoe and farm tractor. Commissioner Alvarez.
Judge, I just want to ask permission from the court to buy a backhoe and a farm tractor. I need them for the tractor and both tractors to be enclosed because of the bees. We had a lot of problems out in the field. It's becoming pretty dangerous.
Second, Your Honor.
Moved and second to approve. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is to amend the electioneering policy. You all have it before you.
Well, Your Honor, they just gave them to us. What does it consist of? I mean, we're,
Yes.
Judge, Victor's on his way.
Okay.
You want to wait until he gets
Okay,
here?
let's skip that item, yeah, because I really don't know.
Item,
6?
6 and 7.
6 and 7, yeah. Okay, let's go on to item number 8, and that's also an action item. This is to approve HHSRV, SREV 10,1089 between County of Starr and Department of Health and Services. Mr. Gonzalez, Dennis.
Judge, Commissioners, this is a contract we already have in place. This is actually a revision contract the state sent us. Only have one reservation. That the lady called me last week and asked me if our legal counsel had reviewed it. So if you want to approve pending the review from Mr. Canales, there's some change to their data usage.
probably, she's got something new in there that she wants for the council to review it, you know. And,
Yeah, that's what it is. The state is going with a new system, and if we.
And what's
access that-
this system is for what?
It's for the birth and death for the
Oh,
state.
okay.
Whenever, a lot of the birth and death from the JPs has become electronic, so when they file a birth or death, we do that through a system, through this system that's called TER.
Uh-huh.
And the TER system, you can access information as far as people were born or died in another county, we can search that. There's new fees and there's been changes to some of the contracts, so I'll probably need Victor to look at it to make sure.
Okay, and
Apparently, some other counties are making a big deal about it.
do we have a deadline as far as date that we need to approve?
It's September 1st that this contract would take effect.
So we have all of July and
Yeah, I
August.
think we have next month to.
Yeah, I would prefer to table it and to see if there's any fees
I have his
involved.
copy here, so when he gets here, I'll get it.
Okay. Yeah, my thing is if there's any fees that we need to come up with, we need to make sure that,
Well, no, it's just new fees as far as if we access that system, there's a different fee. So
and that's passed on to the consumer?
Yeah, it's passed on to the consumer. So we would need to adjust some
Well,
of
what-
that on our computer system.
Whatever the court wants, we can approve it pending approval by county attorney, or we can table it, whatever you want.
We can table it and bring it back for.
I think we need to table, make sure that we have somebody read the contract, because we have been approving contracts that we never read, and then we get surprises at the end.
Is that a motion?
I do so move, Your Honor.
Second.
Moved and second to
Judge, before
table.
you go further, any further, Judge, back on item number 5, if there's any contracts to be signed, Judge, I'm gonna make sure you get them so you can approve them and sign them.
Okay. Yeah, if there's any contracts, I guess it's already been approved by the court, so I can go ahead and sign off. For the tractor and the backhoe, the contracts, it's already been approved by the court to purchase them, so I can go ahead and sign. We don't need to bring it back to the court.
If the total is over 50,000, it has to go out for bid.
But
But if it's on
Unless
the
it's
buy
a,
board?
yeah,
we have a buy board, right?
Yes, you can, or you can use the Bible.
Yeah, it'll probably go to the buy board.
okay.
But nevertheless, if I can't pay him in one payment, it'll go to a contract.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, don't make that part of your motion.
That's what,
Well,
Okay,
Well,
that-
let
are
me-
we gonna finance some of it, or what?
probably, yes.
I'm gonna have to, yeah.
Yeah.
Let-
How
let-
about if you buy one catch up front that you don't have to lease it? And
If-
you go to the buy board, they say, you go to the buy board and you got the money to pay cash for it?
You
don't have
don't-
to come to the commissioner's court, no?
Well, it still has to go through the court because it's money that's being spent. It's,
But that's
it's,
for the PO, not that we gonna, it has to be approved with the PO, ain't it, Mr. Carter?
I
They say if
guess,
I go to the buy board,
And the reason I'm bringing this, Mr. Carter, is because it might take 2 budget years to pay for both of them.
That's,
well, that's a lease purchase, but if you go,
that's the thing, I would have to compare the PO to the capital outlay line item in your budget.
Yes, sir.
If there's not sufficient funds
Yes,
there,
sir.
you'll need
That's-
to finance it, and you should make I would suggest that you would make the financing part of your motion so that there's a public record of the transaction with an audit trail.
Right.
Let it-
well, I do have a motion, a second on the table
For the,
for item number 8.
Okay.
Let me call that question, and we'll go back to 5,
what's on the,
to table it.
okay, I did move one.
Yeah, and I have a second. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now on 5, who made the motion?
I did.
You, I'm sorry?
I made the motion and second by.
Okay, you want to amend your motion to include,
To include the.
Finance.
if financing is needed, that we authorize financing?
I second.
Is the second, okay. All in favor, please, aye.
For the discussion, may I ask a question to
Uh-huh.
Mr. Carter?
Sure.
Mr. Carter, if we have the money from the capital outlay, okay, to purchase any equipment or whatever, and you go to the buy board, the PO is sufficient because we got the money there, or we have to bring it to the commissioner's court anyway?
The PO is sufficient. My understanding is that the PO was sufficient in that case.
The PO? If you got the money,
Yeah.
the
One
purchase,
question though, there's still a contract that needs to be signed for the purchase contract. And my understanding is that a contract can only be signed by the county judge
Right.
with the approval of the court. So would it still have to go to the court for their approval so I can sign the purchase contract?
Man,
Yeah, that's
yo
where
compré con.
one part of the regulations doesn't jive with the other part, okay? Yes, the contract should be authorized by court.
Yeah, because it's a purchase contract, even though it's not going to be financed.
okay, no, you know what, see, you just, okay, and we can do it, that's no problem. The thing is that, if you're gonna, when we come back to approve the purchase order, it has to be signed by the judge.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a slim difference between an invoice and a contract, okay? If the seller sells on an invoice and there's sufficient money in the capital outlay line item, then the PO would be sufficient. However, if the seller requires a contract, then it would need to go to court.
Yeah, if no purchase contract is needed, I see no problem. But if a purchase contract is needed, I can't sign it unless it's approved by the court.
that's correct, yes. But look at if I go buy something upfront cash, a backhoe or whatever, but I'm gonna ask for a PO from you, I got the line item, you will give me the PO, and
Yeah.
then after it comes in, well, you have to sign it and approve it by the Commissioner's Court. Am I correct, Judge? Mr. Carter?
I think the buy board is only to.
Well, again, we need to talk to the seller
Yeah.
up front and find out how he's gonna do the sale document. If it's an invoice, that works. If it's a contract,
Okay. If it's an invoice, you don't need to, as long as you got the money to pay it in full, not to come and do a lease purchase.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's right.
But if they need a purchase contract, then it's approved. Okay.
So, do we vote on it? ¿Ya votamos?
Ya votamos.
Yes.
Tarde, pero-
Items 9, 10, 11 through 18 are budget amendments, Mr. Carter? Are they in order? 9 through 18,
all the way through 18
right.
have all been reviewed and they're all in order.
Hay dos muy bien.
Second.
Moved and second to approve. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Items 19 through 24 are budget corrections.
Yes, sir. And these are all items to allocate some of the additional revenue that was certified in previous meetings.
De los 25.
So this is what is actually being added to the budget.
Son los 20.
They've all been-
Hay dos muy.
I second, Your Honor.
Okay, a motion, a second. Motion, Commissioner.
So the difference is to get more
Garza.
money.
Right.
Okay.
Pues de los papaletitos.
Opposed? Or all in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's go back to item 6.
Correct.
And Mr. Canales,
I apologize for walking down, taking care of a couple of things in my office. No, I was in my office, actually. Well, we have a couple of additions to the, I'll start with the building and property policy. The most substantive, at the last hearing that we had in federal court, issue was made. It was before Veterans Day weekend. Issue was made because a technicality caused the cemeteries to fall under the policy use that was not used during the weekends. That has been corrected. It has been taken out of the, and made a separate. It allows tents, booth, tables, and chairs allowed in county memorial cemeteries and so on and so forth. Talks about public spaces, including cemeteries as public spaces, which takes it outside of any regulations for the most part. Those are the substantive changes that are in that we're asking, that are recommended by our attorney. That's pretty much the substantive changes to the building and property use policy. It's basically to take out stuff essentially. We're adding language to take things out from permitting, from those kinds of things, which are cemeteries and memorials. That's what we're doing basically. It's a really nitpicking. We're down to very nitpicky little things. It just so happened that things right before the last hearing, Veterans Day came around, and that was one thing that our attorneys had not foreseen, was the cemeteries that were under our purview. So, within the electioneering regulations, we are deleting items. I'm sorry.
Mr. Garland,
Yes, sir.
going back to what me and Mr. Peña had requested on the,
We're waiting, first, Commissioner, our attorneys have advised us to basically wait on and allow the federal court to be comfortable with the policy as a whole before we start tinkering with it as far as what we discussed, as far as the salons and so on and so forth. It's kind of sort of like you're building a Lego thing. The analogy, you take one out in the middle, it's kind of like Jenga, you're going to have it fall on you, and you don't want to do that. Let's get something in place that the federal court deems to be fine, not violating any rights whatsoever. We don't think it does. And again, the intent certainly was not to violate anybody's rights to have any memorial functions at the county cemeteries. That was never the intention, and so as a result, we didn't overlook, we did not catch that until too late, right before the federal court hearing. So that's what our attorneys have advised us, to just, let's get the package into court properly, something that satisfies the court, which I believe we're really, really close on that, Commissioner.
In what section do you cover, for example, precinct 1, Clemente Alanis Garceño Park? Where do you cover that?
It would be in, we don't specify individual ones, Commissioner. What we
But where
do,
you cover it in general?
we cover it in general on page 7 of 15,
Page 7,
yes, of the building and property use policy.
public
At
space?
the very top, public spaces. Sidewalks on county property and county parks, cemeteries and memorials are considered, quote, public spaces. Permitting is not required for the use of public spaces.
So for the Garceño Park, you don't need a permit?
Correct.
Okay, because I was thinking if we needed a permit, I was gonna take the fences down.
No. There's no, we're taking all cemeteries, all memorial areas out and creating them as public spaces, which they have always been, and that's what they are.
That's the only one I have. I don't have nothing else.
Moving on to the electioneering regulations, we're deleting, for the most part, substantive, we're defining, in the second page, we're adding a new letter D, meaning defining political, and renumbering E and F, G, H, we're just renumbering them. There really is no substantive changes, except that one definition that we're adding in there and renumbering. And there's several deletions of items that are in there that are not substantive in nature.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes, sir.
and yes, you still see the pictures here where you circle the El Cenizo, La Victoria, La Rosita. That circle, what does it consist of?
Those circles are the most accurate representation that we're able to produce for a picture of the 100-foot barrier.
Okay, and then outside of that, where are we at?
That is, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question, Commissioner. Basically, you cannot
Because
electioneer
last time
inside
they
those.
changed it, that electioneer can be done in La Rosita parking lot, but not in El Cenizo or La Victoria, part of the parking lot. It still continue to be the same?
Yes, Commissioner, that we're not asking to change that at this point. The parking, the reason for that is the uniqueness of La Rosita. The small area that there is, the very small area there is to allow some electioneering to happen. If you'll note in El Cenizo, you have big, large areas of grass adjacent to the voting site, which has been used for electioneering this past election and can continue to be used. It's just parking spaces, parking areas that are designated as parking for vehicles that cannot be used. But the grassy areas and all that's
No,
certainly.
I understand, yeah, yes, I understand.
And you don't have, in La Rosita, it's so unique in the sense that it's landlocked. You don't have any grassy areas where you can actually have people.
Do you want some?
supporting.
We can get some.
That's up to the Commissioner's Court
I don't-
entirely.
I
Arriba el
think,
pavimento.
I think that's a little discrimination, because I think we should select part of El Cenizo, not all the parking lot, you know. But they say, why don't we select a portion of the parking lot, just like we do with La Rosita?
With all due respect, I don't think it's discriminatory, Commissioner. I think that people in El Cenizo actually have more of an ability to
No más no
electioneer.
quieren que no digas ahí.
No, the reality is, I think you have a lot more access to.
No,
to
but
being
not
able-
where the more access to the voters come. Yo
Certainly,
no, that's no problem.
Right, okay. Those
Mr.
are the
Canales,
changes, Commissioner.
on the very last page,
Of which one, Judge?
on the maps, on the properties,
The electioneer?
on the properties, building
On the
properties.
property.
yeah.
Okay.
It's just the road that goes in front of Abel Gonzalez Park. It's got labeled at 7:55, it's not, it's 10:17.
Oh, okay.
San Isidro.
That would need to be, we'd like to pass
Nadie va para allá como
it
quiera, me
with that amendment.
Nomás Harvey.
You know, another thing that's not in here es allá el que tiene Mr. Sainz, allá donde votan en el Abel González, Community Center, no hay restrictions para ninguno ahí.
Yeah, aquí está.
Yeah.
That's the one I was,
¿Dónde está ese? Porque
La última.
the very last page.
No, electioneering, you go to the electioneering. Luego se talking about electioneering.
Oh, election.
election year, ahí no tiene nada, ahí no hay restrictions para ninguno.
No, I'm sorry, there are restrictions, Commissioner.
No están aquí.
They may not be reflected in the diagram itself, but the diagrams reflect are where they allow electioneering,
Wow.
where it's
Ahí no,
allowed.
No viene en electioneering, no.
I haven't seen the
I don't see it here, you know.
No viene nada.
Todos vienen acá. Under the electioneering,
Ves, tienes 1017 y luego tienes 755. Enseña los
oh,
dos.
yeah,
Ahí la tiene.
Enseña los dos.
yeah. Okay, under, that map is shown under building and property, but it does have highlighted, so I imagine that's also electioneering, isn't it?
I believe that there's, I'm not familiar with the picture at this moment, Judge. I was more into because we're not, the amendments are not changing. The photos are the same ones that were used previously.
And what's the procedure now, Mr. Canales? These new policies,
Aquí no miro.
these new policies have to be examined by the judge again?
We are modifying to the effect from the last hearing, from what we heard from the judge.
Pero the judge will hold another
Well,
hearing?
we're set for trial actually in September, I believe.
You do, we
I
do?
believe we're set for trial for final hearing on it. I hope we are able to put this to bed, hopefully by the month of November. And we at this point, with the way the proceedings have been going along, we feel very confident that what we're doing is giving the voters a safe space to come and vote without being harassed by any candidates or individuals. Basically, we've been following Supreme Court cases that have been handed down, and we're not unique, commissioners. We're not unique. Actually, we're doing what states usually do. And lots of states are doing this to give the people the freedom to come in and to decide those last 15 seconds to be their own when they walk in, to be able to make that decision to vote. It wasn't always this way. It used to be that you would actually not have any space whatsoever. You'd vote outside and walk up to a window and turn it in. Whereas when you turned it in, it would be nice and quiet back there, but in front it'd be just chaos. And so we've modified that over the years in our history, and I'm talking about the U.S. history, from the 1800s to the present.
I'll say it again, I'll say it before, Mr. Canales, and I'll say it to Mr. Escobar too. I don't have no problem with this. The only problem I have is that we do not need an overexposure of law enforcement monitoring these areas.
agree.
Voters tend to think like voting is a crime because of the amount of law enforcement.
I heard your
No es mafia,
comments
es an
last time,
election.
and they're well taken, Commissioner.
Again,
I don't think we need, I think one individual, standing out
Yeah,
there.
one is okay, and for him to be parked in a place where he can monitor, he doesn't have to be
Conspicuous.
on the door where the people go in and vote.
I agree.
So, I mean, common sense. Common sense.
Just one more opinion. So you're trying to tell me that because in La Rosita, there's a limited space to go vote, they can be harassed. It can be allowed to be harassed to go vote. I mean, no es lo que te digo, porque what I'm saying is, La Rosita, you won't give them, because they ain't got a place, so they're allowed to be harassed before they go in to vote.
It's-
And
we're
then,
trying-
no, you got a space. So you
We're
can
trying
go
to
for it.
conform to what the federal court has asked of us, Commissioner.
Huh?
We're trying to conform to what the federal courts have asked of us, and so we're trying to balance everybody's rights. And to affect the distance from the areas that we're talking about are substantial. If there is a disruption, it's minimal, because they are at such great distances. They're not, as you mentioned, it's still on the purview, but it's giving some people the ability to, because that's what this all stems from, is that people want to be able to give their view out there, to give their political views out there and to electioneer. it's giving them that little bit that they're able to do it, you know, that to balance it out.
Pero si se puede hacer, why can't we have a little piece there in the Cenizo, just to be equal with La Rosita?
I think if you were to measure, Commissioner, I think you're actually closer to the Cenizo, quite frankly. In the
Pero es lo
legitimate
que
areas.
está
Es que nosotros no somos peleoneros allá, we behave.
Nosotros tampoco, nomás que, pues no sé por qué como que le sacan, no sé qué tiene. Como que está bueno.
Vámonos, güey. What do we
So
need to
we
do?
would respectfully ask that it be approved, Commissioners.
I guess we need to approve the amendment for electioneering and the amended building and property use.
Motion to approve amendment for electioneering policy.
Second motion.
Moved in second, discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
I abstain, you want to make the record show that I abstain.
Let the record show Commissioner Garza abstain. Motion passes. It is 10:30.
Espérate, falta la de building and property.
What?
Building and property motion.
Pues I took them both together, but we'll do the other one.
Okay.
Let's do building and property. Is there a motion to that?
Motion to approve building amendments for building and property use
Second.
policy.
Moved in second. Discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let the record show Commissioner Garza abstain. Section, or item 25 is executive session, and subject to section 551.074, we will now go into executive session to discuss order of salaries. It is 11:35 and we're back in open session. The only thing we had was order of salaries. Is there a motion to approve?
Entonces, como voy,
I second, Your Honor.
Moved and second to approve the order of salaries as presented. Discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
que te lleve la máquina.
Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.